We were just about to go live and talk about KPI tracking and how to actually build a KPI tracker using a CRM of your choice, ultimately to get data pushed into a Google Sheet. And then that Google Sheet can be used as the data source for a free data visualization tool called Looker Studio. So it's a Google product as well. And you can tie those two together so you can visualize the data that's getting logged in the Google Sheet. And I'm going to show you how to push the data to that Google Sheet to really start to build out these trackers yourself. So first, let's just talk about like what a KPI is. A KPI seems like a very abstract idea. I'm sure a lot of people talk about KPIs, but very few actually talk about what it takes to measure KPIs and to measure them very effectively and more in an automatic way. Because I was just thinking about this yesterday, and there's essentially like three different types of ways of tracking KPIs. I'm sure there's more, but the three that I have in mind, step one or phase one is essentially when you really start to understand that KPIs are important in general. And maybe at the end of the day, you start to write down how many calls you made, how many offers you made, how many deals you got done, all that stuff. As you move forward, you might learn about automation using CRMs and things like this that can basically like send you a form asking for the details that you want to track. So maybe you send an automated reminder to everybody on your team and they click a link and it's a form that says, how many calls did you make? How many offers did you make? So same information, kind of manual, but a little bit more automated. It at least helps automate the cadence that you're collecting the information. And, you know, it's a little bit more in your face with reminders and things like that. But really where we want to get to is a place where your business is logging the events for you. And what I mean by that is maybe as leads come into your lead pipeline, it logs a row of data into a Google Sheet that essentially says, what's the contact's name? What's their address? What's the date and time that they came in? Are they associated with any lead sources in particular? Things like that. And then as you move those opportunities forward through your opportunity pipeline, closer to the goal of getting a contract, you're going to hit some key stages: qualified lead, offer delivered, appointment set, appointment completed. Those types of things are what I call KPI events. And each of these events, when it happens, the system will recognize that it happened and push that row of data into a Google Sheet for you then to visualize in your KPI report. So just wanted to give a quick overview here at the beginning, but now I'll share my screen and actually show you what I mean by this and build it with you guys. So this is the Google Sheet. I've already kind of prepped this, by the way. I prepared a template for the tracker and for the sheet and for the data to get pushed into it. So I'll walk you through what we've got here, but really it comes down to this Google Sheet. If you keep this Google Sheet accurate, then you can always visualize your data later. So just make sure that you're starting to log this. And then as you are logging it, make sure that it's accurate information. So the variables that we're going to collect here are only right here, but just keep in mind that my team personally, we track like 2 or 3 times this many variables because we want to really get really granular with the performance of the team. But just for this basic demo, I wanted to track at least the date and time that the event happened, what the event was, who the contact is and what their address is, and then which team member was responsible for that contact. So I've just added these column headings in manually, created the Google Sheet, and then if you're using any Go High Level based CRM, so OpenDispo, REI Reply, Astro Blaster, you know, there's a ton of Go High Level based systems, or Go High Level itself. You know, they all work around automations. So I've got this automation built that I'll walk you through as well. It's pretty simple though. It's basically saying as opportunities are moving through pipelines, when they hit key stages, we're going to use that as a trigger event to activate this workflow. And then this workflow is going to push a row of data in to that Google Sheet. And this is the way that we build this automation. We add our triggers up on top. So let's say I wanted to add a new trigger. I could click here, type in pipeline, stage changed. That's the name of the trigger in Go High Level. And they will add a filter for the pipeline that it's related to. So this is usually like your acquisition seller pipeline. And then specifically which pipeline stage do we want to track here? So these are all the stages of that pipeline. So you would just choose whichever stage you want to use as a trigger for that event. So I've already got two here. One is a new lead and then offer made. And again, we track way more than this on my team, but I wanted to keep this demo really simple and easy to understand. And this video is recorded. I'll share it and you can follow along later if you need to come back to it and refer to it to build your own. I just wanted to keep it very simple so you guys can understand what's going on here. So we have these triggers, which are pipeline stage changes. Each of these could trigger this workflow. When it's triggered, we say, okay, which pipeline stage triggered it? And depending on which one did, we'll send it down a different branch. And the reason for that is because we want to update a contact field that correlates with our KPI events. And clicking on this, you'll see some of our other ones that we track, like suspect, offer, rejected, contract executed, assigned to buyer, closed deal. But in this one, it's a lead. So we're going to track it as a lead. And then if the offer made was the trigger, then it would go down this branch and it would update the KPI tracker field to offer made. And this is a single choice or multi-choice drop-down option as far as custom fields go. So build the field, build the workflow, separate it based on the trigger that you want to cause that, And then this is the key stage here. We're going to do a workflow action that's called Google Sheets. This is a native Go High Level workflow action. It is a premium action, so you'll have to pay, I think, a penny each time this is executed. You could also do it through Zapier for free if you have a Zapier account. But I like just doing it directly. And what we're doing is we're choosing which account, which Google Drive account, which spreadsheet, which worksheet in that spreadsheet, and then which columns in that worksheet do we want to update. And then we go in and we choose what we want to push into that cell. So I'll do this from scratch just to show you, but we're going to it would be a Google Sheet. We're going to create a spreadsheet row. We'll choose your account, choose your drive, choose the spreadsheet, choose the worksheet within that spreadsheet, and then choose your starting column and your ending column. And then that drops these down, and we can use these tags right here, these custom values, to fill in whatever is related to that particular contact. So for date, we're going to do this one. I know that date right now, but you can get there by going to right now, and then date, day, month, year. Actually, I guess that's the wrong one, but this is the one you'd want. Time, similar. You go to tag and then right now, and then time, 24-hour format is the one I like. Event is actually just going to be pulled in from that KPI tracker field. So whatever the KPI tracker field was updated to, that's what would get pushed in as the event here. Contact, that's going to be a custom value for the contact's full name. And then these are pretty self-explanatory as well. We're just going to do contact, street address 1, city, state, postal code. And then team member, that will be the assigned user. So whoever is currently assigned to the contact at the time of this event, they will also get logged. So then we save that, save the workflow. And now this is really set up to start working. So as people move into the lead stage or the offer made stage, we're going to push a row of data into here. So let me just delete this out and then show you how that actually starts to work. So in that pipeline, we're going to start moving these into the lead stage. And you see these ones are assigned. These two are assigned to me. This one's assigned to Zach. And as we start moving all these guys through here, and then, maybe we start to make offers on some of these. As these are moving through these pipeline stages, it's triggering that workflow that we just built, which is updating that custom field, which is populating this Google Sheet with the date, the time, the event, the contact's name and address, and then the team member. So that's enough data. We can get started with it. Those are the ways to build your log of data. But let's just now assume that you've been collecting data. And actually, let me just go here and show, pull this back to the 12th of the month and maybe just build in a little bit of variability here with the date range so we can kind of see how that affects things. But you see now we've got a good little list of data that we can use to populate a report in Looker Studio. So just go to Looker Studio. You can search it on Google. It's a free tool. It's awesome. You sign up for it, and then you can create a report. So I've already got a few items embedded onto here, but I'll just, I guess let me show you a blank one. So page, new page. It starts just like this, a blank template. And you can just start to insert elements like pie charts and time series charts and scatter charts and gauges and all these types of data tools or data capabilities you can add into here. So some of the ones that I like to use are data controls for date range. So we can actually choose the date range that we're interested in at any point in time. And you can also control for things like team member or lead source or things like that. But, we're going to just start to add elements onto this page and relate it to the data source. So if I click into this page, this is the one. I don't want to build it totally from scratch because it takes a bit of time and design work, but I just added a couple of elements into here and I'll show you how we go about linking it to the data and creating some calculations. So we have to click into each element and make sure that the data that it's pulling from is accurate. So you see this is actually pulling from an old data source. So I want to click this data source button and add data and change this to whatever data source you're trying to use. So I'm using a Google Sheet, so I'll click there. I just created this Facebook or KPI tracker for Facebook Live, and the KPI events worksheet is the one we're interested in. So we'll add the data source. And I can actually just go ahead and add it to all these other elements on the page as well. So I know that this chart is an element that we can update the data source on. And then these three scorecards up here are also elements that we need to update the data source on. And I realize actually this is maybe a little bit confusing, so I'm going to go back and kind of do this from scratch over here on the other page that I just created. So essentially, as you insert something like a table, it's going to ask you what data source do you want to use. So that's where you choose the data source that you created. And this is starting to pull from that data source, but it's using these settings over here. So we have to configure a lot of settings, and a lot of them we just have already set up in the column headings. So for example, the date, we need to drag that to make sure we're controlling for the right date range. Dimension, time, that is not really a dimension that's interesting. Much more interesting dimension would maybe be a team member, for example. So we replaced that with team member, and now you see it's separated by which team member executed those events. And so this is looking at record count as the main metric. So as you see, it says Rick Sheldon 6, Zach does 4, total of 10. That's because there's a total of 10 records. But we're not really interested in the number of overall records. We might be more interested in something like the number of them that are new leads. So we can kind of see of the contacts that we've got pushed in, who are the leads being assigned to? So to do something like that, we need to add fields, which are more like these blue ones, which are calculations. So I'm just going to go to actually, I think I can just grab it from one of these. One sec. So what I'm grabbing here is basically a formula, just because I've already created all these formulas. I don't want to think about the formulas again. I'm just going to copy this and start from there. So now here, if we wanted to go back to this table that we started and say, like, I want to look at the number of leads, not the number of total records, we have to add that as a field to be able to incorporate it into the filter criteria. So we'll add a field, and the first one is going to be number of leads. And then I'll paste in this formula, but I'll walk you through it. So this is saying if the event is lead, then count it as one. And then sum up all of those. So they're either 0 or 1, and all the ones reflect the event being lead. So this should give us 6 leads. So I'll save this, click done, and then drag that new metric onto this one to replace it. Or you can click on this and choose it that way. But now you see there's 6 total leads, and 4 were assigned to me and 2 were assigned to Zach. So that's how you add these elements, but I do want to kind of hop back in and just, use the one we've already got started here, because what we want to look at is how many leads are we getting, who are they being assigned to, and how many offers are each of our team members making across time or over time. So in this box, like I said, we want to look at, number of leads, and we want to break it down by the team member, not the time. So now you see that visual representation of this same table. It's 4 were assigned to Rick and 2 were assigned to Zach. I already updated the lead source or the data source for all of these elements, but now I just want to go through each of them and make sure that we're tracking the correct things. So this, I want to look at number of new leads. So just like over here, we're looking at the number of new leads, but we're not going to break it down by team member. This is going to be a total number of leads. And then next, we want to track how many offers are we making. So I want to just go into this formula that I already created, click this FX button. I'm just going to copy this again so I can start from a good starting point. And then our next function is going to be number of offers made. So now we're looking at all the events in that data source, and we're looking at the event column. And if it equals offer made, then we'll count that as one now. So no, it's no longer going to look for the number of new leads. It's going to look for the number of offers made and then sum up that number. So this should work. And then I'll update it. And then while I'm on that scorecard right here, I can change the metric, and we're going to look at number of offers made. So now we've got 6 leads, 4 offers. Now, naturally right here, we might want to see what's the rate. How many of our leads are we making offers on? So now that we've got these 2 formulas already created, we can actually create a third one utilizing those. So I can go add a field, and I'll call this one offer rate. In the formula, we don't need to do anything like this. We'll just go over to the left and find number of offers made and divide that into the number of leads total. And save that. That's a third field that we'll update as the metric for this. And within each of these, you can click on this edit button to change the way that the number is presented. So we don't want that as a decimal. I'd rather have that as a percentage since it's a rate. So we click this button and then click data type and change it from number to percent. So you see how this is coming together. It's across this date range. We've had 6 new leads distributed between these team members, and we've had 4 offers, and that's this percentage. I do want to change this table because then it'll really start coming together as we update the date range, and our dimensions are date and event, and our breakdown dimension is team member. So now with this change, we have a visual representation of who's making more offers on a daily basis. And we can also change the way that this data is presented by going to style. You can change the colors, the labels, and things like that. One thing I like to play around with is whether or not it's a cumulative total. So if I check that off, then refresh the data. Oh, I guess that's just the way that the data is, but you see how now we can apply these filters. We can click on something like Rick and it'll isolate that data. So of the data up here, of the 6 leads and 4 offers, Rick has 4 leads and 2 offers and 50% offer rate. Whereas maybe Zach has, I believe, 2 leads, 2 offers, so 100% offer rate. And then this last table down here at the bottom, if I update the data on here, you'll notice why this is so cool. Oh, I didn't change the data source. Okay, so we want to look at the offer, like the record count is fine here, and we're going to break it down by the event. So now we have all of the actual contacts here. So based on the event that happened, we can see the contacts. And all of these elements on a report page, they stay in sync as long as they're being pulled from the same data source. So you see now as I click Rick Sheldon again, it'll update the contact list to show the 4 leads that were assigned to. So there was a duplicate here, it looks like, but those are the actual contacts that are associated with Rick. So this is like a really quick and easy breakdown of tracking your team's offer rate. This is one example of like you can, once you learn how to do what we've done here, which just to recap is using automations through Go High Level to push rows of data into a Google Sheet based on pipeline stage changes. And then that data source is the data source for the Looker Studio report that we built out in this way. You see how quick it is to start to see some very insightful information about your team's performance. So I don't know. Right now, I'm going live from Zoom. I don't think I'm really able to see the comments properly, so I'm just going to end the live. But I hope anybody who's tuned in has gotten some value, and just let me know if you have any questions. Over here in the chat, there's a couple of links. If you click on the one that says kpiconsult.opendisco.com, that's a really cool thing. My team's built out an AI chatbot that if you go through that link, the AI chatbot will text you and talk through your KPIs with you and really help you gain some insight, through a text-based conversation. And that's kind of a twofold approach. One, you'll start to understand your KPIs a little bit better maybe, but also you might see how cool the AI chatbots are. And if you're interested in the AI chatbots or the KPI tracker, you want to dig a little bit deeper on either one of those things, just go to that link, fill it out, start a conversation with us, and we'll be in touch, and we'll see if it's a good fit to work together.